Welcome back, everybody. This will be the week 4 update. Like it's been all season so far, another slow week. Amy and I keep bouncing around. We started hunting a little bit separately this week, just because some of the spots we picked, we did not have two tree stands in the same tree, so we had to kind of separate. And Amy had a good encounter last night with a really big buck, and she wasn't sure if she should shoot it or not. She ended up passing it, and then she regretted afterwards. It was pretty big. I'll try and put a screenshot of a Snapchat that she took after the buck was walking away, but it's pretty low quality, so we'll see how that turns out. I'll show a little bit of footage that we have, a little bit of comments about a couple areas that we went to, and then we'll circle back and I'll tell you what our plan is going forward. I think today is October 28th, if I'm right. So I'll talk a little bit about what we're expecting to happen over the next week for week 5 and what our strategy is going forward.
I wanted to include just a couple of our accesses. This is to our fence jump stand, and I have a mowed path to here. Wishbone and I are headed in for an evening hunt. But I just want to show we're typically accessing our stands through this tall native warm season grass plantings, like in this case it's CRP, or a cow pasture, or something where we're not gonna see deer. And this really hides our access really good. So this next clip is we're on this pond stand, and we get up in our stand, and we notice this. To me, it looks like a fawn. And we were at this stand like a week ago. So our guess is coyotes or something brought this fawn down. But a lot of deer. We saw a lot of deer. This little buck, I think we saw 7 or 8 bucks this night. Bunch of does and fawns. This little buck was actually chasing these fawns around. There was a doe there too. He was chasing around, so he's feeling a little frisky. But with this warm weather and drought, we were really keying in on water, but we can only hunt this stand with a west wind, and we have not been getting a lot of west winds. But we did this night. It was actually out of the northwest, so we hit this water hole. So that was the first decent buck. Here comes another. This is another decent buck. That was an 8 point. This is a 9 point. Yeah, there he is there. A little bit better view of him. 5 on his right, 4 on his left. And this is a different buck now. So this buck is actually looking at that 9 pointer. And that 9 pointer, I didn't want to move around too much, but that 9 pointer actually is, got his ears back, kind of like this 8 pointer does, and they're kind of checking each other out here. This went on for like 10 or 15 minutes. And then finally it didn't square off. They didn't fight or nothing, and this 8 pointer came down and started drinking some water. And this is another buck that came in more toward quitting time. Like I said, I want to say 7 or 8 bucks and maybe 7 or 8 does and fawns. So a lot of activity in and around that water hole, which we expected, but we didn't see a buck that we wanted to shoot this night. This is my night vision. I should say night vision. This is low light on the camera. Another little buck came in. So we had basically deer around us from the time we got on stand until we left. This is a spot on our cabin farm that I call the candy cane food plot. It's about the only food plot that I have that's green. I don't know why it's green, but all the other ones failed. I don't. Maybe it's because it's afternoon shade, but it's more of a destination type food area, so I don't hunt it a lot. And I saw this little buck that night, and then so I'm facing north right now as I'm filming this, and then to the south of me, I had 8 or 9 does and fawns came out. And I didn't film them because they were really wired up. That little buck ended up bedding down in some weeds about 10 yards from my stand, or from that ground blind. So this is another access. This is at the cabin farm. This might have actually been even on week 3 or something like that. But again, I wanted to show how we access these stands through these tall grasses. and that lets us get in. Lets us get in quiet, and they can't see us. So it's a pretty good way to get in and out of your stands. This is a spot. I'm trying to think where I'm even at right here. Oh, this is one of the permission farms we had, and the reason why I showed this clip is that's all standing corn. So it's a small woodlot, maybe 30 acres, but it's surrounded by corn, hundreds and hundreds of acres of corn, even to the south on the neighbors. So deer are pretty spread out. That's all I saw was that one fawn. And then our daughter Lily came down and surprised me this last weekend, and so I was hunting in a spot I call Hanging Hunt, which is where this is. It's down one side of bedding, and this is kind of a dry run, if you want to call it. Kind of a, I'm just in here to make sure that stand is good. I can get in. Shooting lanes are all good. Pretty thick down one side of bedding. And Wishbone and Lily are about 300 yards to my west in a different stand. And where I am, there's also a nice ditch crossing, so I just wanted to show I did see some deer using that ditch crossing while I was on stand. Evening hunt. More toward quitting time, you kind of see a shooting lane over on the right side if you caught it back there. But I saw two pretty good bucks, but I don't think I got it on film. I wanted to show you how thick it was trying to watch them through there. So here's Wishbone and Lily.
I'm hunting with Wishbone.
And Lily's using my GoPro.
And we got buck meat in the stand with me. We're here to shoot a big buck. Girl power tonight. Yeah. This week's tip is to always hunt with your mother. Because hunting with your dad can sometimes, I don't really know. He's a little loud in the stand. Yeah. Yeah, we like to be quiet. So we don't do any talking, no moving, nothing like that. No. We don't really sniffle. No. So it's all quiet here. Yeah. So the tip of the week is to always hunt with another woman if you can. Absolutely. Because that's the best thing you can do. Good luck, Dad. Hi. Hi, Dad. Just saw a spiker. Spiker? Yeah. Just saw a spiker. Okay. Bye, Dad. Bye. Hi, Dad. Hi, Dad. Just saw a doe. So, yeah. That's it. Just a doe. Yeah. We got our eyes peeled. Yeah. Bye, Dad. Good luck.
It was good to have Lily in hunting camp. It's always good to have friends and family in camp, but she's using a GoPro, so this deer probably looks like it's farther away than it is, but we think it's probably like a 2-year-old 8-pointer. Pretty nice encounter. Walked right down this, I call it a perimeter trail, and it was by him for quite a while. And I realize this is just a terrible screenshot, but this is the buck that Amy passed up last night. And this little screenshot doesn't do it justice, but it was a pretty nice buck for her to let go.
So, like I said, there's not a lot to talk about for week 4. So what I wanted to touch on going forward is kind of what we're seeing right now and what our strategy is. So the first thing I want to talk about that I didn't touch on really in the first couple updates was we have here at home a lot of corn still standing. We have another farm. It's just a small woodlot that we could hunt that's surrounded by standing corn. And what that does, I want to talk about this a little bit. So deer, if they have other bedding opportunities, do not prefer to bed in corn. But what happens is if you have waterways or terraces or these little fingers that come out into these cornfields that typically will not hold deer. So it's going to be like pretty wide open if that corn is gone. if that corn is still standing and that stuff's 6, 7, 8 feet tall, these little fingers and waterways and terraces and stuff like that will still provide pretty good bedding opportunities for small doe family groups. Bucks will bed out there. When the combine rolls through, those areas they're done. They won't bed in those areas. They'll be very reluctant to bed in those areas. So 2 things I'll say. If you have deer bedded in standing corn, not in those waterways or ditches or anything like I'm talking about, that's because the bedding areas, like the timbered areas that you have, is just very poor quality, or there's a lot of hunting pressure in those areas, forcing those deer to try and find a little bit of a safety net in that standing corn. That's not what Wishbone and I have going on. What we have going on is they're using that standing corn in those waterways and those ditches and those fingered points, stuff like that, as bedding because the corn is still standing. That hurts us because the deer are way more spread out. Makes it a lot harder to hunt. They're not in their primary bedding areas, which are a lot easier to hunt because we know where those areas are. So it'll help a lot when the corn comes off. That's the first point I'd like to make. The second point I would like to make is it's been so warm out that the deer that we are seeing have been primarily either on a water source because of the drought or almost entirely on green. Almost entirely on a green food source. And I think now that the temperatures are getting a little bit colder, I'm looking at the 10-day forecast. There's some highs in the 50s, 60s, something like that, but we've been in the 70s and 80s. I think when we start getting a little bit colder and it looks like there's some rain coming, finally, we might start to see some of our other food sources that we have access to, like combined corn and combined beans, be a better food source. So that's something that we're looking forward to. Another thing is you start getting into this end of October, early November, you're going to have areas where a doe comes in the heat. I always talk about this first hot doe, and that's really important in your area. That first hot doe, even though the bucks are building testosterone levels and they're ready to breed, they might be working scrapes, they might be working rub lines, they might be expanding their home range a little bit, checking things out. They really don't start their, I would say like fevered pitch, really seeking and chasing phase until that first hot doe comes in the heat. And no doubt that's happening already somewhere. I have not seen any sign of that where we hunt. I have not seen any sign of that first hot doe where you see a lot of chasing, bucks grouped together chasing. In fact, 2 different times this past week, we saw it, Amy and I saw it, and my neighbor saw it, where we saw 2 or 3 bucks still traveling together on a bed to feed pattern. So, just like in a line, and they were headed back to their bedding area together, almost like a bachelor group. But last night, when Amy passed up that buck, he was showing definite signs that doe might have been in heat. She definitely accepted that he was behind her and trailing her. She had nothing to do with the fawns that were with her. And that big buck, that mature buck, was following her, just like classic. She's in heat or getting close to being in heat. So just one more point I'd like to make. When that first doe comes into heat in an area, that's what triggers that buck's, fever pitch, seeking and chasing phase of the rut. The part that really gets exciting. So you might have that on a 40-acre piece or a 100-acre piece where you hunt or not. 5 miles down the road, a neighbor or a buddy could have that first hot doe come in heat, and they might have outstanding hunting right now, and you might not have nothing. And that's or the opposite. And that's probably what's going on, is that first hot doe is popping and coming into heat right now. So kind of look out for that. We're going to assume, I think, in the next couple days here for sure, by the time we get into early November, that we have had at least one doe come into heat. We're going to assume that these bucks are going to start their seeking and chasing, and we're going to get into the more traditional rut spots like fence jumps, ditch crossings, downwind side of bedding, and those type of scenarios where we've been more on this bed to feed pattern that we've really struggled with because of our failed food plots this year. So that's kind of what our strategy is going forward. There's some bucks that I've been waiting for to show up that we have not had a single picture of on camera yet. I still believe they're all there, but because they're not really moving that good yet, because of that first hot doe, just hasn't happened yet. I expect to start seeing some bucks that we were hoping to see this year, like in this next 7 to 10 day time frame. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. One other thing I wanted to cover is morning hunting. We don't hunt a lot of mornings early in the season just because we hunt almost every single day. If I started hunting mornings, it's so difficult to get into our spots in the mornings in early season because deer are so spread out. We're going to be bumping deer going in and out. And I think it would put too much pressure on the properties that we hunt. We hunt, a few small properties. We do have the cabin farm. But, we don't have thousands of acres and 15 different farms to hunt, which is where most people are at. If I was a weekend hunter, so let's say all I could hunt is, let's say, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday morning, for example, I would hunt mornings because that would be my 4 or 5 sits. But because I can hunt every single day in the early season, I'm doing basically just evening sits. But now looking forward, I'm probably going to start hunting some mornings, and it's going to be more situational. So if I have a strong, heavy 20-mile-an-hour west wind, I have a phenomenal morning spot that hunts really good with a strong 20-mile-an-hour west wind. I can get into that spot under a heavy wind condition, downwind side of bending. I'll probably hunt that for a morning sit. That's an example. So that's more of a situational thing, except instead of a date type of thing. A calendar date type of thing. So we're probably going to start hunting some mornings. I at least will, and it'll be if I have really good access, if I can get into these areas with a heavy wind, and hopefully I'm not bumping a lot of deer. If I'm bumping deer, I'm going to back off, only hunt evenings, or maybe I'll go in at 8 or 9 in the morning. Let these deer get back to their bedding area, and then I'll sneak in and hunt those areas and stay all day long type of thing moving forward. But my primary objective with not hunting mornings is I just want to keep the pressure low because we're hunting every single day. So with that, good luck everybody. Things are going to start picking up here for Wishbone and I. I got that gut feeling. Been through this 40 years. This is my 40th year bow hunting whitetails. So I've been around long enough to know it's coming. We've struggled a little bit, but it's the really good hunting because of the rut is right upon us.